Hello, this is Dale, and I'm joined by Mike Jones.
How you doing, Dale?
I'm okay. I was at a meeting this morning with the Board of County Commissioners. That's a big surprise. And I saw some things that were rather alarming. Another big surprise. A number of people have said to me, Dale, yeah, you go to all these meetings and you seem to think they're important, or you're always talking with the commissioners about how they.
I hate it when you characterize me like that.
I didn't say that you were saying, I just said people that look a lot like you. And they, what's the matter with you for, picking on the commissioners and they're just trying to do their job. That's not you, or whatever. And so let me explain why I feel the way that I do about these meetings. And after I'm done explaining that, then you can wake up again. So pick a subject that you're rather interested in. And in Mike's case, it might be something to do with computers. It could be because we're using computers. There's computers behind me. You're watching this on a computer. Yeah, so let's suppose the county government decided in their wisdom that they were going to start spending our tax money on something having to do with internet and the computers, which they're now considering. Ooh, you'll like that. And they start this board of people that they've picked, and they're all part of the same club, and it just happens to be called the Rotary Club in this case here locally. And they're going to give the commissioners advice about what should happen, and so they meet as an official board. It is something that you're interested in. It might be animals.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
I'm getting lost here already. Uh, what are we gonna do
Oh,
that
we're
has to
getting
do
there.
with the? Oh, we're getting okay. All right, all right.
We're definitely
Wake
getting
me
there.
up. Wake me up
Okay,
when we
we're
arrive.
definitely getting there. I promise you that we're going to get there. It
Okay.
could be something in which you're interested. It could be growing roses. It could be anything about which you would like to be informed about how the county government's going to spend your money.
Mm.
So if you know they're going to meet, or if you assume they're going to meet, you might want to look on the calendar for the commissioners, and you would hope that they would post it on the calendar that they're going to meet. That would be step number one. It would be nice to know when they're going to meet. They don't always do that. They say, well, we don't need to let the people know because we're having an informal, fun time discussion. But you're discussing county business. You have to tell us. Not only is it the polite thing to do, it's the law. You're supposed to tell us. So I started going to something like the fair board meetings, and as soon as I showed up, they were like, "Oh, well, we need to have time to discuss things." Yes, and you're supposed to discuss it in public. You're spending the public's money. Well, just the mere fact that you're here is distressing to us. Really? Okay. And that's when Herb Carter decided to turn up a loud radio so I couldn't hear what they were saying.
Nice.
There's no law against turning up a loud radio, and there's no law against Herb Carter dancing around naked in the room either. There doesn't need to be a law about such things. You just don't do that. It's fairly disgusting to turn up a loud radio, not the other part. That is too. And so you went in hopes that you won't. No, but why should you even care? I mean, because they're probably talking about benign things that aren't going to be, except that we find out now that in addition to being that way about the meeting, and there's a clue here for you, everybody, Herb Carter was writing blank checks. Herb Carter was helping the fair management keep separate bank accounts that the county didn't know anything about. Herb Carter signed a deal with Pepsi that we're just now getting out of after a couple of years. It was an awful contract. So a good rule of thumb is if you find that people are being belligerent, or they're being opaque, or they're being hard to get along with, or you ask them a question and they go nutso, maybe there's something to hide.
Yes. And if that person is involved in government, you can almost guarantee that that's the case.
So when I went to the meeting, oh, finally, when I went to the meeting this morning, and they were meeting as a separate board. First they meet as a board of this, and then they meet as a board of that, whatever. And they were meeting as a separate board about the North Valley Sewer Sanitation District, whatever. This is like the fifth time that they've met. There's no agenda. You don't know that they're meeting. The last time, the only people showed up besides me were people that were personally invited by Cheryl Walker. Really? Is that how you're running meetings? You don't know what they're going to talk about. And they don't even know what kind of meeting is it. Is it a workshop or is it public participation? Workshop, no one can speak except for them. Woo! And when the public's there, well, generally no one can speak except for them. And so at the end of the last meeting, at the end of this meeting, I said, Mr. Chair, will there be any time for people to ask any? He's talking right on time. I said, will there be any time for anybody to speak? And he just talks on top of me, meeting over. So what happened? Well, you don't get to know. See, because they don't want you to know. They're not going to discuss this whole thing about how they're going to raise the rates out there in the Illinois Valley, in Merlin, how they're going to raise the rates by, are you ready for this? Between 4 and 10 times the rate that people have been paying? Really?
Holy moly.
Well, see, but you don't know that, and there's a reason that you don't know that.
Okay.
I'm going to these meetings and I'm going, wait a minute.
So this is a real good time to stop and take stock of this situation.
Yes, please do.
Because, I think almost everyone who you ask would agree, oh, yes, this is boring. I don't know why Dale goes to those things, whatever. Here you go, right here. I mean, if this is the only reason that ever occurs, then it's a good thing that we have Dale going to these meetings, because were it not for that, you wouldn't know that they're going to attempt to ram a between 4 and 10 times increase in your rates. I mean, that's insanity. You really need to know about that before that happens. So
now I go to the meeting and I have a question. I've got just lots of questions to ask. Here's one simple question. There's a place that gives from the state that gives us money, gives the county money if we meet the criteria. And so Cheryl Walker told them that the school district is completely on board with this system. My gosh, they're going to be one of the major users of this new system out there. Only problem is, no, they're not. And they admitted that again at this meeting. And so Rob Brandes is going to go to the next meeting in the school district, and he's going to try to convince them once again that they're wrong, completely wrong, for opposing this. But Cheryl Walker went to the Infrastructure Finance Authority and told them, according to her own testimony, she's going to, I never said that. Yeah, we've got it on tape, Cheryl. It's on tape. Your argument is with this inanimate object once again. And she told them that the school board is completely on board with this. Now, so one of the questions I was going to ask her is, how are you going to continue working and get the money when you've told them something which is false?
Well, so if you don't mind me asking a question.
No questions will be allowed. Yes.
Yes, that you may or may not be able to answer. What difference does it make whether they're on board with this or not? Are they a major financier of this thing if they're on board or not?
No, but they would be a major user of it. The way they're speaking, now they don't put numbers on this, but it sounds like about half of the capacity will be. You may recall, and these things, they just come and go so quickly. First it was Paradise Ranch. Why, they're going to be using almost all of it. Well, listen, we've got a school district and we've got a state rest stop. Yeah, except what happened to that state rest stop? Well, that's no longer, those facts are no longer applicable. Really? Were they ever? Well, now it looks like, well, maybe they don't really need it at the school after all. And so all of the costs is going to be borne like by half a dozen companies in Merlin. Really? Oh, but we could use it at the airport. Well, no, what the hell would we use it? I mean, what the heck would we use it? It's Mike's influence. What the heck would we use it for at the airport? I'm not kidding you. Cheryl says, well, they could water the runways. They could water the runways. I think I know what she means. But certainly they're not going to be watering the runways.
Yeah. I don't think that happens very often. I'm not sure if I've seen a water truck out there
on the runway. That's what they're going to use the water for?
It might be dirty.
Come on.
It does happen, by the way.
There is dirt, but it's not on the runway. Okay, all right. So So again, why would you want to know what's going to be discussed? Well, the notes that were posted for today's little general discussion say what's going to take place? A general discussion. Oh, well, that sounds attractive. I think I'm going to get right on down there with Dale. So what's one of the things they've talked about that nobody really cares about? Okay, hang on to your hats. Do people still have those kind of hats? Probably not. Only old guys that drive through the middle of town. Out in Allen Creek, the city, Grants Pass City, has their eye on some property that they're eventually going to buy from the county. And they'd like some changes made to it before they buy it. And they'd like us to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, before they buy it, because then they'll be so much more attractive.
Right.
And this involves eminent domain. Now, it's an interesting thing that these two words, eminent domain, never came up at today's discussion when, for about half an hour, that's all they were talking about. Simon Hare came the closest. He said, well, I guess they'll have to they called them takings. And they said, I guess they'll just have to take the property from county residents. The city would take the property from county residents with the complicit cooperation, not collaboration. Well, collaboration is right, but it's not coordination. Yes. The collaboration of the county commissioners who are going to give them blanket permission. They say carte blanche, okay, trot in the French, but you know it's a blank check. Herb Carter will know what that's like. Okay, they're going to write out a blank check. They're going to allow Grants Pass City carte blanche permission to exercise eminent domain over county residents.
Yeah, that's a little weird. How is it that you could, from a legal standpoint, exercise eminent domain over property that you don't have any interest in at all? Let's say, because usually what we're talking about is rights of way, or connecting pieces of property that are needed to complete whatever objective they have in mind. So, but they don't even own the principal property to which they would like to have right of way to, or whatever, and yet they're going to exercise eminent domain.
Yes, but the city
in
needs
the county where they have no jurisdiction.
That's right. So how can this be done? Okay, this is why I go to these meetings. This is why they don't even use the words eminent domain during their entire discussion. This is why it's not on the agenda, and this is why I'm upset about agendas, okay? Not so boring now? Because what Grants Pass City wants to do is they're going to make a fair offer to anybody. But if somebody doesn't want to sell their property, then they're going to seize the property, and they're going to pay them what the city says is fair. Even though this may have been in your family for generations, you have no choice. And who's going to allow the city to do that? You guessed it, 3 county commissioners. Remember the 3 lemons? Clunk, clunk, clunk.
Yeah.
How careful they were today in not using the word eminent domain. Eminent domain should send a chill up any citizen's spine. But the county is going to sign that away to the city, and the city's been putting pressure on them for a year now to try to get them to do so, and now they finally figured out how they can do it. Just never mention the words eminent domain.
Okay, so I drive by this area every day. It's on my way into town, so I'm assuming that you're talking about the big empty space between the Grange Co-op and Allen Creek Shopping Center, where you got that big open area with nothing in it.
No, this is a residential area. This part of Allen Creek is packed with homes from end to end. And they don't want to build. See, there's already a road. How do people get it? There's a road. But the city wants a twisty road. Ooh, that would be so much better. Oh, twisty roads. I love twisty roads. So, in order to get the twisty road that they want, they're going to need to spend...
This is an aesthetic issue. that they like the twisty better. Are they gonna seize the property or buy it at a rate that they find reasonable, and then start tearing down homes and so they can accommodate said twisty road?
You just about got it right there, bud. I said to Mike before this started, he says, really, how much could happen on a Tuesday? And I said, Mike, it's going to be hard to get you to stop talking about just item number 1.
Okay. I'll shut up now.
No, I'm not asking you to. I agree with you.
Because, I'm talking all the time. That's what I'm doing. I'm talking so much that Dale has to go, hey.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. Eminent domain should worry everybody. And the fact that our county commissioners are looking for a way that they can sign over the power. See, they don't even know how it's going to be used. I mean, they know it's going to be a twisty road. This is not much of an explanation, but that's about all that we're getting. And so they don't know exactly which properties. They don't know how much of each property, but the city's insisting that they sign carte blanche, that they sign a blank check to them saying, you have our permission to exercise eminent domain over any of these property owners that you want to, and you'll tell them. Really?
Wow. I wonder if the people in these neighborhoods know this.
Well, one can hope that they'll actually have a meeting that's been noticed properly, and that
I'm thinking a flyer campaign is in order.
Yep.
They
fly over the top of the buildings with a banner behind it. It's a flyer.
They're coming to get you. Beware. Show up at the meetings. Listen. I got to tell you something. I'm very impressed with so far. It's only happened a few times, but I'm pretty impressed with the citizens. What happens when the citizens of the county, and I assume it would be the same for the city, show up and make it known that they don't like a particular idea. Puts a kibosh right on it. And
I can almost guarantee you that that will only take place once the city already has the document in their hands. I think that the county is not going to discuss this and ask people if it's okay with them. I think they're going to sign the document. That part will be over.
Well, you know what? I mean, then the thing to do is to show up at a weekly business session well before that happens and line up 15 people to talk about the darn thing, so that they know that they're on the people's radar.
How do we know they're so sensitive about this? Because they have a meeting and they talk for half an hour on the subject and they never use the word eminent domain.
Yeah. They would if you weren't there, by the way.
I think they would.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to switch over to another subject which is very closely aligned with this. Bathrooms. Same general idea. Okay, so they were talking today about economic development. The only item on the agenda just said economic development. Well, that tells you everything you need to know, right? So I go anyway. And so they're talking about Cheryl Walker's grand plan, which I've asked for. I've asked for a copy for all of us. And once I get it, then we'll make copies because they don't like to do that. So I put in to get a copy of what they were talking about. State law says if they're distributing a document among themselves that we must get a chance to see it. This is why I try to be hard about state law. Well, I put in for the document a week ago. Guess what I didn't get yet? And I went to the secretarial staff and I said, they've got their packet already. And they had their packet last week. And it's right there. It's sitting right there.
Yes, but you know what? When there's no controlling legal authority, I mean, there is a controlling legal authority, but they already know that the controlling legal authority is not going to enforce the law. So knowing that, they go,
Well, maybe you'd like to know a couple of aspects that are in Cheryl Walker's economic development plan. Well, one part's about bathrooms, specifically at White Horse Park. White Horse Park? Okay, you go there all the time, right? Of course.
Oh, that's the next thing on their job creation, Lollapalooza.
Yes, because Cheryl Walker has said now their stated policy is They never hand out economic development money unless they know specifically what it's going for. And as Simon Harris pointed out, it's just project by project. Maybe not bathroom fixture by bathroom fixture, but project by project. Well, except Cheryl would she's already decided in her plan, and she wants okay from the others, to set aside $75,000 to upgrade the bathrooms at Whitehorse Park. Economic development money. Because you can imagine that once people outside of our area, California, for example, Idaho, once they find out that we've got new bathrooms.
Oh, yes. They'll beat a path to your door, I think. Yes. I'm going to go over there. Listen, you just tell me when they're talking about this project's almost finished. It's going to be one of my first stops.
And Simon Harris said to her, well, has Doreen Ferguson, who's head of parks, and this is all true, has Doreen Ferguson, head of parks, indicated that she needs $75,000 for bathrooms? Well, no, not really, but I'm sure she could spend that. I'm sure she could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could create a number of jobs, and I'm pretty sure that I could spend 75 grand. And that might be stretching it, but I could probably do it.
Now, come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. Don't you want lots of economic development in our area? Don't you realize? I mean, as Simon said, well, I've been out to those restrooms out there. I can imagine, because he often leaves in the middle of a meeting to go use a restroom. And he says, I don't know what's wrong with his bladder, but he does it all the time. And we all know that. Anyway, he says, well, I've been out there, and they're really not bad. At a park, really, I mean, personally, I think I'm lucky to have a porta potty at a park. But yeah. Okay, all right, let's have nice restrooms. Okay, $75,000 worth of restrooms in one park.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, a $75,000 government-built restroom is a $20,000 restroom that anybody else builds. So
how does this aid economic development?
Oh, come on. Oh, listen. If you don't understand metrics and multipliers and things like that right now, I'm not going to try and explain it to you, Dale. I mean, we've beat this horse,
Well, speaking of beating that horse, I don't really like beating the horse, and we don't need to kill two birds with one stone either, okay? We can take pictures of birds. IVCDO, the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization, proved its worth, and the commissioners did too, by approving, how much money was it?
I believe, 50 grand, was it?
Yeah.
For the ramps?
For the wheelchair ramps,
right,
that are going to create, after they're built, they're going to create up to 214 full-time family wage jobs that are permanent. So because IVCDO came to the county with this project, everybody loves IVCDO now, and they've proven their worth to the county commissioners. Cheryl Walker wants to give, let's see, my notes say, $50,000 more.
Okay, that's another.
IVCDO, not for ramps, for other unspecified.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So that's another. So basically, that's 400 jobs that's going to be created just by those there. Unless there's some sort of factor that I'm not factoring in.
Oh no!
Now, wait a minute. Whoa. Yeah. So there's got to be another 400 jobs that are going to be created by this 75 grand you're going to be putting into the bathroom.
No, because their deal with IVCDO is they don't really have to show that any jobs are going to be created. They just get the money.
Yeah, but it's going to create the jobs anyway. I mean, come on. Yeah. Just because they haven't done the math problem doesn't mean it isn't going to happen.
Do you understand why we say we need to take the money away from these characters?
Well, you know my feelings about government involved in economic development. I have my personal opinion is there have been a number of great experiments in capitalism that show how economic development takes place. Probably the most glaring one is Hong Kong. Okay, well, what did the British do when they leased Hong Kong from the Chinese? It has a natural harbor. That's about its only asset. There's no natural resources or anything. They just unleashed the entrepreneurial spirit of people by saying, guess what? You can do whatever you want to. We are not going to hinder you. Case closed. Done deal. They didn't need any more than that. So if you want to unleash economic development, putting government in charge of it is one of the stupidest things that you can do. So if you want economic development and you're going to use this money to help facilitate that, use that money to remove the burden that would ordinarily be upon people who are trying to do something.
Well, even Keith Heck today, even Keith Heck was more sensible than Cheryl Walker. He's saying, well, wouldn't the marketplace take care of some of these loans that you want to give out? Because Cheryl says, no, wait a minute. The banks say they don't want to loan less than $25,000. So she did say last meeting, and she started to say at this meeting and then backed off of it, that she'd like to see loans from the county government going out to things such as restaurants. You know, not new restaurants, but upgrading old restaurants. These should not be restaurants that have to compete in a marketplace. Why,
well,
let's give them money.
Yeah, Mark VonHolle here, he's going to be getting 50 grand for nothing. He doesn't have to pay that back.
No,
you know,
he doesn't.
That's the stupid. Listen, then you're in this situation of picking winners and losers.
That's correct.
We don't need a Solyndra here. You know, listen, at least Solyndra actually produced some solar panels. But this guy's going to produce a list of code names, and that's going to be all you're going to get for your money.
That's tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, as a chance for you to come, even if you don't know every detail, bring some common sense with you, because that's a rare commodity around here, and then say, now, you don't even need to say anything. You just need to sit there looking, really? I get in trouble for just looking like this.
Yeah. Smirk, and the most effective thing I think that you could do is chortle in the appropriate location there.
So quiet that the microphone can't even hear you, and I still get in trouble.
Go ahead and chortle out loud. The only guy who ever gets in trouble for this kind of stuff is Dale. So feel free to come and chortle.
It's true. It's true. I am the only one that ever gets into. Mr. Matthews. They're always mentioning me by name. Oh, that's BadCounty.com. You mean the site that doesn't exist? Remember? Well, anyway. Point is that Cheryl Walker would like to get involved in restaurants. See, this is a restaurant that can't get a loan from a bank.
Nice.
Now, why could they not get a loan from a bank? Well, because they're a good investment. Would you please take the money away from these commissioners? Please. Yeah. It's not that it's coming directly out of your pocket. It's coming indirectly out of your pocket. But think of all the things that could be done that would make more sense if you were in charge. If you were in charge, not just Mike, but if you were in charge of handing out money or deciding whether someone deserves any money, what you might do is say, let's not hand out any money. I'm for that. Or you could say, all right, let's just hand out money to those who are the most deserving. Or you might say, well, we'll only hand out some money to those who have already gotten a loan from a bank, and the bank has vetted them and they're pretty sure they can do it, and we do just a little bit extra, but we say to them we want a gentleman's agreement that you will hire local people. Oh, but you can't put that in the contract. Fine. You just make it a handshake agreement. You've been doing business like that for generations anyway. Hire local people, would you please? And why are we involved in restaurants? Restaurants? What, are you kidding me?
Well, listen, these people have already proven it. If this contract that we have been talking about for the past few days,
Mark VonHolle.
If this contract is any representation about how these guys do business or their understanding of what makes good business. This is all the reason in the world that you need to restrict these people from making these decisions further, or at least scrutinizing every decision they make, because they clearly make poor decisions. This is crony capitalism. I have no doubt that there's a connection between this guy and the two people on the board that want to approve this thing. And whether I'm not alleging corruption of the type where revenue is being shared or anything like that, but there's certainly an idea. Politicians at the end of their term want to be able to say, I did such and such, and that's what this whole thing is about. They want to say, we poured all this money into. It doesn't matter if they ever accomplish anything, because their good intentions are what count to them.
What was the last thing that you heard of that they invested in that paid off? Do you think that they would tell you about it if they could? That they would shout it from the tallest? Well, let's see. They tore down.
Well, no. Listen, it's clear that they're walking around crowing about the accomplishment of tearing a building down. They're desperate for something to grab onto.
And the Courier's helping by not telling anybody about what happened to the $100,000 cost overrun. This is verboten. We cannot have this in the newspaper. It's verboten, I'm telling you, and I'm using the right language too. Listen, the thing is that if you wonder how this website can exist with now over 205,000 views, and they still insist that we're not media, because if we're media of any kind, then we get to sit in on the, and you can't report on it, but you get to sit in on the executive sessions where they're constantly making contracts like this, and then there will be a witness to how they make these decisions.